All right, so welcome to final presentation for CIV577, Infrastructure for Sustainable Cities. Let me take a few minutes before I turn over the floor to you so that I can make a few introductions about the course and the project for the benefit of the audience that we have today. So we have one guest in class and we have one guest online, and they're both free to ask you questions for clarification, but we're here to really impress them by all the designs that we're doing. So let's take a quick walk through sustainable cities. The course is primarily a green design for civil engineers, and the purpose was to provide engineers with a skill set to allow them to meaningfully contribute with urban planners, city builders, architects, etc. And it's also an opportunity for engineers to apply their creative abilities, such as all this creativity and innovation that we can put together in terms of sustainable strategies to create livable, aesthetically pleasing, and sustainable urban environments. And it draws upon several subdisciplines of civil engineering. So for example, we looked at the different subsectors of civil engineering, like buildings and transportation and energy, etc. And it was an interesting project in the sense that it was innovative and it's an integration of all your skills as it applies to a real city. So we were challenged to design cities of our choice by working in groups of two for the year 2050. And so the challenge was to choose a city, design it for the year 2050, and make it as sustainable as is reasonably possible. And ideally, we would like this to be an iterative design process. We don't have the luxury of that throughout the term, but we went through a review and a visioning exercise, and then we took the city's component by component. So we designed buildings, and then transportation, structures, land use, neighborhoods, energy, water, and waste. And together, that created a sustainable city. And you were asked to determine sort of two indicators. One was greenhouse gas emissions, now and in the future, and the other was urban metabolism, baseline, and future as well. And we tried to reflect on our impact in terms of our city designs on the Sustainable Development Goal 11, which is the goal for cities. So you were improving upon existing plans and coming up with new plans. You were asked to be creative in your choices of strategies. You were asked to be critical of the data that you work with, analytical in your approach, practical in your findings and in your design, and demonstrate an understanding of the context of your city, so that local knowledge that you were able to pick up through the design process. And most of all, we have to be as quantitative as possible because this is an engineering design project. So throughout the term, we learned about many cities, but more so we learned about Toronto and the Greater Toronto area because we drew examples closer to home. And we also sort of spread around the world to look at global cities. So for example, energy in Seville, sustainable active transportation in Copenhagen. We have sustainable buildings in Okotoks. So a nice spread around the world, plus the 13 cities that you collectively chose, and so we learned a lot about those as well, including the city-to-city learning activities that we did. So a little bit of peer-to-peer learning, so we walk away from this course knowing a lot more than what was just in the lecture. So what was new this year were two things, and of course, more work for you, but it makes the course much more interesting. The urban exploration activities, for every topic that we presented, you went away and you came up with an additional slide for that strategy. So when we talked about urban theories, we discussed 4, but you went off and you came up with a few more urban theories. And lastly was city indicators. We compiled indicators every tutorial for the cities that we worked with and gave us a nice comparative analysis to see how cities compare, how they are different, how they are similar, and what they can learn from one another. So by no doing of mine, you chose cities that were nicely spread out across the world. We have 7 American cities, we have Calgary, and then we have other cities aside from the North American ones, Reykjavik, and we have Brisbane, and we have Singapore, and in Africa we have 2, Johannesburg and Cape Town. So I'll end there, and I'll turn it to you. And I will again reiterate thanks to those that presented last week. I'm looking forward to the 6 presentations today. Okay?